No, I actually like Caitlyn, and I'm just being
Right.
real and truthful. She has brought millions. I wouldn't be surprised if it's billions of eyes onto the W and onto women's sports.
Although Sophie Cunningham has never been one to hold back, her most recent disclosure regarding Caitlyn Clark is shocking the WNBA. You also need to keep in mind that if it weren't for the WNBA by now, she might be playing. Put an end to the rumors that you're leaving or going abroad. Sophie just provided an unvarnished explanation that goes beyond any report on injuries. What she revealed highlights the unrelenting pressure, unrealistic expectations, and harsh realities that the league's top player must deal with. This has nothing to do with hype. It's about getting by. Take a seat as we explore Sophie's startling revelation and its implications. The voice that won't shut up. Sophie Cunningham has taken the more difficult route in a league where being honest has a cost and remaining silent is frequently rewarded. Sophie has established herself as the WNBA's most unvarnished truth teller, while most players adhere to prepared responses and cautious PR spin. And she is actually footing the bill. She was penalized thousands of dollars by the league in 2024 alone for speaking out loud what many players only mutter in private. It all began with a TikTok post criticizing dubious officiating, a single remark that took $500 out of her salary. Or is it sluggish? Perhaps it's pointless. She then lost an additional $1,500 due to a podcast piece that revealed contradictory calls. You were penalized for the first episode. Will the WNBA discover me? They fine me $1,500. I'm like, what? I'm like, this is just the beginning. Like, you're kidding. The punishment amount wasn't even revealed when she dared to accuse the league of outright partiality. In the hopes that the message was obvious, they simply smacked her with another fine and moved on. Quit talking and go play. Sophie, however, won't participate in that game. She is extremely harmful to the current quo because she never stops talking. Consider it. The annual salary range for WNBA players is approximately $64,000 to $242,000. A $1,500 punishment is comparable to losing 2 weeks of rent or a portion of their off-season salary for many athletes. Almost anyone would be silenced by such a monetary penalty. However, Sophie continues to persevere, endure setbacks, and inform supporters of the true state of affairs within the league. She is no longer just another athlete expressing annoyance following a difficult game because of this. She has emerged as the league's unofficial whistleblower, a player prepared to face penalties, criticism, and possible career setbacks in order to expose the truth. And the reason her voice is so significant is because of her reputation. Fans are aware that Sophie's words are not merely conjecture or a desperate attempt to gain attention. This is a first-hand account from a person who works in the grind. Her choice to continue speaking up despite the consequences lays the groundwork for everything that comes after. This is the reason her remarks regarding Caitlyn Clark are so significant. Sophie isn't making up a story. She's bringing to light difficult facts that the league would prefer to keep hidden. It is impossible to ignore her voice because of this. Was Sophie implying that Clark was being held back by the league or hinting at unspoken pressure? Avoid blinking. Everything is altered by the response. The revelation regarding Caitlyn Clark. The WNBA's central query has been the same for weeks. When will Caitlyn Clark return? In an effort to get a specific timeline, reporters have questioned coaches, teammates, and league officials. Every day, fans skim through updates in search of clarification. However, if you appreciate this content, consider giving this video a like and subscribing to the channel. Believe it or not, more than 90% of viewers haven't subscribed yet. It's free and only takes a second, but it means the world to us. So, did you subscribe already? Great. Thank you so much for your support. Now back to the video. Been given ambiguous statements rather than precise replies. We'll see next week, day by day. There is currently no update. Only conjecture has been stoked by the silence. Then, on her podcast, Sophie Cunningham destroyed it. She said one line that instantly altered the topic without any drama or build-up. If it weren't for the WNBA, she may be playing. You also need to keep in mind that if it weren't for the WNBA by now, she might be playing. The impact of their statements was like a thunderclap. They weren't coming from an outsider speculating from the sidelines or a fan on social media. They originated from a member of the league who is familiar with the harsh realities of what it takes to compete at this level. Sophie's statement was more than unexpected to Caitlyn Clark's millions of followers. It was concerning. Consider what Sophie said. This goes beyond Caitlyn's requirement for additional time to heal from an injury. It has to do with the setting she is attempting to return to. Sophie was really clear. It is not a sign of weakness or a lack of toughness because Caitlyn is not present. It has to do with the WNBA's harsh standards. Caitlyn was dominant at Iowa. She sold out venues, attracted record crowds, and raised TV ratings to all-time highs as the face of college basketball. She was a generational talent due to her range, vision, and ability to change games on her own. However, Sophie disclosed that those achievements don't always translate to the WNBA. You can't just be good here. You must be perfect. Additionally, the league will devour you if you are not prepared on a physical, mental, and competitive level. That was the shocking revelation. Sophie wasn't disparaging Caitlyn's abilities. Most people didn't want to hear the truth that she was revealing. Even a superstar like Caitlyn Clark needs more time to adjust to the pressure of the WNBA. It's a survival issue rather than an emotional one. Sophie emphasized how harsh this league has grown abroad, or even in college, by pointing out that Caitlyn may already be playing somewhere else. Caitlyn may already be impressing fans on the court. But in this case, the demands are so high that a hasty return could endanger not just her season but her career as a whole. Sophie's remarks struck with such intensity because of this. She wasn't merely providing admirers with updates. Pulling back the veil on a league that might be too cruel even for its most brilliant star, she was raising an alarm. What chance does anyone else have, though, if the WNBA is thus harsh on a generational star like Caitlyn? To find out, keep watching. The WNBA's cruel standards. Sophie Cunningham wasn't lying when she suggested that Caitlyn Clark might be playing if it weren't in the WNBA. She was drawing attention to a reality that the majority of fans only saw on the surface. However, every night, players feel it in their bones. The WNBA is more than just college basketball on a higher level. It's a completely different universe. Furthermore, good is insufficient in our cosmos. Caitlyn Clark was untouchable at Iowa. She was unbeatable against collegiate defenders because of her technique, range, and vision. However, the defenders in the WNBA are more aggressively physical, faster, and stronger. Every athlete on the court used to be the top players in her program. Every slot on the roster belongs to someone who fought their way through years of fierce competition in order to make it. And Sophie put it plainly. You can't just be talented at this level. You must be perfect. Fans were taken aback by her description of the league. WNBA games can felt more like rugby to Sophie than basketball. There is continuous touch. The blows are more forceful. Players openly discuss how they need armor to get through a season. As officials, they allow significantly more contact than spectators are aware of, fostering a culture where being tough is required. It is required. Imagine returning to that kind of stage following an injury. Stars are gradually reintroduced in the majority of leagues through minute limits, additional referee protection, and other measures. However, there is very little room for error in the WNBA. A comeback may be stopped before it starts by one mistake, one hesitancy, and the brutality of the league. Sophie was exposing that harsh standard. Caitlyn may already be back, on the floor overseas. She would most likely be playing by now if she were in college, but in the WNBA, hurrying back would put much more at risk than a few poor performances. Injury, a decline in self-esteem, or even career failures could result from it. Here's the crucial information. Caitlyn wasn't being called soft by Sophie. The exact opposite. She clarified that there is no doubt about Caitlyn's toughness and work ethic. She was drawing attention to the extreme nature of the WNBA. The league is at its deepest point ever. The competition is intense from the starting five to the final bench position. No easy matchup or weak link exists. Every possession is a struggle. Additionally, each participant has the ability to reveal even the tiniest flaw. Sophie was referring to this same truth when she stated that Caitlyn's absence isn't only about healing. Caitlyn's lack of heart is the reason she isn't sitting out. Because anything less than 100% preparedness is a surefire way to fail in the modern WNBA, she is sitting out. Players are not given enough time by the league to develop their rhythm. They must come prepared, or else they run the risk of being completely engulfed. And Sophie's bombshell revolves around it. Caitlyn's predicament goes beyond a personal hardship. It reflects how the league has changed throughout time. Even generational stars now need extra time to thrive in the fiercely competitive, physically demanding, and merciless WNBA. It's a harsh standard. Furthermore, it might not even be sustainable, as Sophie suggested. The two-tier system and favoritism. Biting her tongue has never been Sophie Cunningham's style. Furthermore, her criticism of the WNBA was motivated by irritation with what she perceived as a risky pattern rather than resentment. For her, the league's demanding requirements weren't the only problem. It was the unequal application of such demands. She contended that although some players received protection and cushioning, others were forced to suffer unrelenting physical abuse without assistance from officials. She described it as a two-tier structure. The most obvious instance was when JCS Sheldon drove into Caitlyn Clark and shot her in the face during a heated match. It wasn't nuanced. It was careless, blatant, and had the potential to marginalize Clark once more. However, the officials downgraded it after reviewing it. A blatant one. The kind of penalty more appropriate for a negligent bump than a potentially harmful blow. Shortly after, Marina McBride used both hands to shove Clark, causing her to fall to the floor. Just a shove, no attempt at the ball, no pretense of a basketball move. And the reaction, no dismissal, no grave repercussions. The message was very obvious when crew chief Ashley Gloss defended the decision, saying it didn't qualify for an ejection. Clark was by herself. That inaction, was just what Sophie had long warned against. By speaking out loud about what players and spectators witnessed, she had already jeopardized her finances and image. She talked about how officiating tainted games on her podcast, describing encounters in which certain stars appeared to be shielded from harm while others suffered little respite. She gave the example of Paige Buchers, remembering a night when whistles seemed to follow her everywhere. Sophie said that you were literally unable to touch her. It wasn't resentment of Paige's skill. That was respected by Sophie. Fairness and the legitimacy of a league that professed to maintain integrity but openly displayed partiality were at issue. It was hard to overlook the disparity in Caitlyn Clark's situation. The rookie wasn't your average player. The league itself relied on her to draw in new supporters, and she was the one who filled venues and was constantly discussed by commentators. However, she was thrown into the fire rather than being protected to assist her transition into the most difficult phase of her career. Her initiation included all of the collisions, shoves, and no-calls. Seeing that happen in real time was the tipping point for Sophie. Sophie stood up late in that same game after witnessing Clark take blow after punch. Cunningham pulled Sheldon down as she attempted a layup. Intentional and unrepentant. The play wasn't about basketball. It conveyed a message. She and her teammates would defend their star if the officials refused. She didn't back down or act any differently after the last buzzer. She acknowledged what everyone was previously aware of. This was retaliation. The league remained silent for years. This was the result of years of officials ignoring risky hits. Sophie's actions went beyond simple revenge against a particular performance. It served as a warning to the system. However, why did quiet on the court feel much louder than retaliation? Continue to observe. For all the commotion around Caitlyn Clark's absence, there was silence on her injury. Fans were far more shocked by Sophie Cunningham's revelation than by her remarks regarding physicality or partiality. In reality, nobody is aware of what is happening. Not the reporters, not the fans, and, surprisingly, not even her own teammates. Take a moment to consider Sophie's admission on her podcast. I'm not holding out any information. I just literally don't know. Transparency is unavoidable when a star player gets injured in practically every other professional league. The NBA publishes thorough reports on LeBron James' injuries. Every day, the NFL provides updates on quarterbacks such as Patrick Mahomes. Fans are given a timeline, no matter how ambiguous, even in college athletics. However, the quiet surrounding Caitlyn Clark in the WNBA has been overwhelming. The recuperation of a single player is not the only issue. Caitlyn is not your typical rookie. Television ratings are on the rise because of her. The mainstream media at last began to cover women's basketball on a new level, and arenas sold out. Her presence is fundamental, not merely valuable. Half of the league's momentum seems to have vanished overnight without her. Nevertheless, the public updates are still incredibly ambiguous on a daily basis. There is currently no update. Next week, we'll see. That is not clarity. Deflection is what it is. And what many had previously believed was confirmed by Sophie's confession. The league is in charge of the story, purposefully leaving Caitlyn's status ambiguous.
Why?
That's the question that's trending on social media. Is Caitlyn's privacy being protected by the silence? Is it an effort to keep networks and sponsors from becoming alarmed? Or does it fit into a more complex pattern? The same organization that punishes players for voicing their opinions conceals inconsistent refereeing and may now be hiding the truth about its biggest star. For whatever reason, Caitlyn finds herself in a difficult situation as a result of this blackout. Rumors quickly fill the void in the absence of official updates. On the internet, fans conjecture endlessly. Is she having greater difficulties than we've been informed? Is she being held back or hurried? Is this a health issue or something more significant? And this is when Sophie's candor really shines. What precisely is being concealed if even she, Caitlyn's opponent, peer, and fellow WNBA insider, is unable to obtain answers? For Sophie, acknowledging her ignorance was more than a casual remark. It was proof of something more significant, that the league's silence is a decision rather than an oversight. And it's one that makes Caitlyn Clark battle not just her recuperation but also the burden of ongoing rumors, fan rumors, and more significant queries. Rumors always try to fill the void left by a lack of official updates. And Caitlyn Clark is experiencing precisely that. Fans are frantically searching for answers due to the WNBA's silence. Additionally, the amount of conjecture on the internet is increasing daily. As you browse social media, you'll notice recurring themes. Issues that extend much beyond a minor injury to the knee or ankle. Some fans worry that this isn't just any bad luck. They contend that Caitlyn's history of injuries is directly related to the way the league handles her on the court. Without reliable, officiating protection, they claim that she is being abused every night, which is preparing her for long-term issues. It was succinctly summed up in one widely shared comment. If the league continues to allow people to foul her in every game, this will simply be her career. Others adopt a different stance, blaming the WNBA directly. Why does every injury update sound the same? They wonder. Day by day, no time frame, no medical report. Press conferences, in-depth analyses, and even investigative coverage are sparked by uncertainties in other leagues. It raises suspicions in the WNBA. Does the league have anything to conceal? Are authorities purposefully evasive to preserve their reputation? Then there are the rumors about other options, which get louder every week. Supporters have observed that international leagues frequently provide their stars better circumstances. Players in Europe and Asia are paid more, have better organized rehabilitation schedules, and, paradoxically, are more open about injuries. Furthermore, these are not only outlandish theories. In actuality, hundreds of WNBA players have already chosen that course, splitting their time or quitting entirely due to the league's unsustainable financial and physical demands. The conjecture is evident to Caitlyn. Would she be able to do the same one day? Could the most significant rookie in the league, the driving force behind its recent rise in popularity, decide she would be better suited elsewhere?
No.
No one is claiming that it will occur tomorrow. However, it is concerning that supporters are even posing the topic. What makes this conjecture risky for the WNBA is as follows. It goes beyond wild fanfiction. Sophie Cunningham affirms these worries each time she speaks up. She has stated unequivocally that if this were another league, Caitlyn might already be competing. She has verified that the way games are called is influenced by partiality. She has also acknowledged that she is unaware of Caitlyn's healing schedule. To put it another way, Sophie isn't merely feeding rumors. She's giving it legitimacy. And that's the more significant problem. It goes beyond Caitlyn Clark's occasional absences from games. It has to do with trust. The WNBA isn't simply facing an injury catastrophe if players continue to confirm fans' worst suspicions and fans begin to suspect the league is concealing the truth. It's facing a crisis of credibility. Furthermore, damage of that nature does not recover over time. What happens if the biggest concern facing the league isn't injuries, but rather a decline in trust?
Keep an eye out.
The future of the league and Sophie's legacy. Caitlyn Clark's injury isn't the only thing at the core of this whole maelstrom. The player who wouldn't keep quiet is Sophie Cunningham. Sophie made the decision to jeopardize her income, reputation, and even her standing with the WNBA in order to speak the truth in a league where doing so may cost her thousands of dollars.
Consider that.
Each fine served as a warning to keep her silent. But she persisted.